My name is Molly Shaughnessy. I'm happy to be here with you today and kind of leading you through the session, but I'm going to pass things over to kind of give you more information about the program today. I'm going to pass things over to Daniel. Thank you so much, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Wanted to introduce myself. I am Daniel Gosher. I am the director of the Global BFA program. I'm also a professor at Emerson College. Been here since the beginning of the program, so hopefully myself and my colleague Harold Hutter can fill you in on some information today, answer your questions. Let's toss it to Harold to say hello and introduce himself.
Hi everyone, my name is Harold Hutter. I'm here zooming in from Paris, France. I'm the chair of the program at the Paris College of Art. I'm a working filmmaker, writer and director, and I also teach screenwriting. So I'm looking forward to this presentation, answering your questions, and going through what the GBFA is.
Thanks, Harold. So everybody, we have a little presentation here. We'll go through and try and give you some information on the different points of the GBFA program. If you do have questions, obviously, you want to get those to Molly, and we'll get to them here towards the end. Okay. So for starters, I just wanted to talk about what we're talking about today. Basically, in the program overview here, we'll talk about the 3 locations that the program take place in, which of course is going to be part of it in Boston, a large part of it in Paris, and some of it at the castle in the Netherlands. Wanted to point out too that we'll talk about the joint degree nature of the program, and then obviously its unique approach to film study and filmmaking. And then some of the benefits about having a program like this with global education. For starters, I'll toss it over to Harold. Harold can talk a little bit about the experience he'll have in Paris over at Paris College of Art during the academic years.
Yeah, so thank you, Dan. As you can see on the map that's appearing on your screen, the Paris College of Art is towards the west of the city. Now, for those of you that haven't been to Paris, Paris is actually a very densely populated and big but small city at the same time. So everything is extremely close. Things are extremely close to each other. So you can see that the Eiffel Tower, the Arc de Triomphe, the Palais Garnier, and a slew of museums are all within a very short metro distance to the Paris College of Art. And so when you begin the program, the BFA program, you'll actually be starting the program in Paris. So I realize that some of you may have heard differently because the structure of the program changed this past year. And so you will begin your first semester at the Paris College of Art with an orientation session at the end of August. Here we have a picture of some of the facilities at the Paris College of Art. So this is our cinema, where we hold some of the classes, where we organize all of the co-curricular events, and where we host the capstone screenings as well. The Paris College of Art is an art school initially that has a big film program. This being said, we have plenty of amazing film facilities. So we have a sound stage, we have post-production facilities for editing, for sound editing, for color grading. So everything that you need to make a professional looking film. We also have plenty of exciting production equipment, so cameras, so that we have mid-range and high-end digital cameras. We also have film cameras. So we sort of cover the whole spectrum that you could expect from any sort of professional film school. Here we have a picture of the sort of student housing, or rather the student apartments that you'll be living in. So the student housing, I'm told, is about a 20-minute metro ride from the Paris College of Art. They are all self-contained units. So you each will have a small bedroom with a small kitchenette and a small bathroom. Those are not shared. There are for each and every one of you. All of the GBFA students, however, are living in the same sort of building. So you'll most likely be on the same floor as your peers, or maybe a floor below or a floor on top of the other students.
Thank you, Harold. I'm going to talk a little bit here about the other 2 parts of the program. Now, one of the summers is spent in the Netherlands, and Emerson has owned a castle there for, I think it's coming up on almost 40 years now. We've had this castle. It's a really interesting facility. It's a 90 bedroom. It has modern classrooms, computer labs, and we've been teaching there. But luckily, we've been able to add it into the GBFA program as a part of the summer. So one of the summers in the program is spent in the Netherlands. If you're familiar with the Netherlands, on the right-hand side, you see a map of it. The Netherlands obviously is bordering with Germany, and the castle is literally 1 mile from the German border down on the southeast part of the Netherlands. Um, it's really kind of actually a beautiful place to go for that summer. It gives us access to a lot of museums for field trips that are very nearby. We also have access to a lot of the media art up in Amsterdam. So the third location, of course, in this program is back in Boston itself. And you will spend 1 full summer in Boston during between the first and second year in Paris, and then you'll return there in your senior year for what's called the capstone year. And we can get to that in a minute. But for those of you who are familiar with Boston, you'll see Boston Common right in the center of the picture. And that area there outlined in yellow on the right-hand side, that's the Emerson campus in Boston. So we have one entire corner of Boston Common. A large part of what you'll do in Boston is going to be working with our infrastructure. So in the sophomore year, you'll have a chance to be on our sound stages. And then in the senior year, we'll do a lot of finishing work as part of that capstone year. So we do have post-production facilities, color correction, sound mix, all those kinds of things here in Boston. So Harold, would you like to go over at least some of the program calendar, what the year by year would look like?
Yeah, so your first year will be in Paris. So that's like a regular sort of 2 semester year. So it goes from September to December and then from January to May. So you'll have the full academic year in Paris with 4 in-person classes. And you will also have 2 Emerson online classes. So you have a full course load of 5 classes per semester in that first academic year. And then you will go over to Boston for your first summer. So Dan, I guess I'll pass it over to you for that first summer.
Sure. So that first summer, as you can see on there, is from mid-May to mid-August. It's a full summer session or 2 sessions because we do 2 half sessions in the summer. That second year, as you'll see when we kind of skim the curriculum, is going to be largely working with actors, getting a lot of the post-production fundamentals down. So starting to really kind of build off of some of those courses in production and lighting that you would have taken year one at Paris. At the end of that, oh, I'll mention, of course, similarly, I didn't show you, but Boston has dorms on our campus. So as part of that area that's next to the Boston Common, we have buildings that you'll be housed in that will support dining services. We have all the on-campus services in Boston for that summer. But after that summer is done, then you'll be heading back to Paris for early September to rejoin them for another academic year.
Yeah, and so the second year, sort of slightly similar to the first year, has a mixture of production classes and theory history classes. Again, it's a full academic year from September to December, and then again from January to May. So you do get a little bit of time off at the Christmas, New Year's Eve period, but I think it's important to note, maybe at this point, that you get very little time off in between Boston and Paris and the castle, and then Paris again. So you get always a couple of weeks in between, but actually, because it's an accelerated program, you have fewer months off during the summers.
Yes. The castle summer is interesting. The castle summer, we actually do provide transportation from Paris right to the castle. So you'll have about a week after your classes have finished to pack up and be ready to head up to the Netherlands. Again, that's going to be 2 studies courses and 2 production courses at the castle with a fair number of field trips mixed in there. At that point, everybody heads back to year 3 in Paris, and this is the beginning of an interesting year. It's called the capstone year. As a matter of fact, why don't I advance a couple slides while we're talking about this, Harold, and we can actually specifically look at that capstone year. So for anybody who wants to see this curriculum, by the way, it is available on the website, along with a lot of course details that specifically outline what goes on in the courses. So if you look up the Global BFA degree, I know it's on the Emerson site, and I know there's links on the Paris side of it. And look for the curriculum listing, then you'll have all these in detail there. But we talked about year one in Paris being a mixture of media production and critical thinking and writing, and some of the foundational courses, cinema lighting included. We talked about year two already in Boston, involving introduction to film, so continuing 16 millimeter work, as well as directing for actors and an introduction to post-production courses. That second year we mentioned or just finished with in Paris, talking about some advanced courses like cinematography and media production 2, as well as some studio electives. That's an interesting option at PCA. I think maybe before we get into the capstone, we might want to talk about all the studio electives that are available at Paris. Harold?
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely worthwhile mentioning. And then, Dan, if you don't mind just skipping back just to the first year, just to address, because I know that one of the questions that was sent ahead of time was about French classes. So yes, we do have mandatory French classes in the first year. So you can see here on the curriculum chart that you have one mandatory French class in the fall semester, and then you have another mandatory French class in the second semester. Now, the reason why French is mandatory is in the first year, and the reason why we encourage students to keep on taking French classes throughout the 3 years that they're at PCA is that obviously we are an English speaking institution, but we're still in Paris. And so we feel that it's important for our students to sort of get the grip with some level of French so that they're able to, function within the French film industry. And this is even more important for the students that are sort of hoping to come back to do internships after they graduate or hoping to come back to Paris to work in some capacity. So, even though a lot of what happens in France within the film industry is in English, it is a requirement to speak French. And so we have these French classes built into the curriculum to make sure that you are getting some level of French. And so, yeah, to address a little bit the studio electives that Dan mentioned, whilst you're in Paris, you have the option of taking additional studio electives completely free of charge. And because the Paris College of Art is first and foremost an art school, you're able to take studio electives, in photography, in painting, in sculpture, or in fashion design. And all of those studios electives are there for you to choose from and are sort of offered to you in the hope that they will somehow enrich your filmmaking practice. So we have sort of mandatory studio electives in the second year. So here, if you look at the curriculum chart, you will see that in the sort of fall semester and also in the spring semester, you have studio elective or internship. Now, the studio electives, again, can be taken from any other department at the Paris College of Art or also within the film department. So we do offer film electives, which are classes that have been sort of designed to sort of complement what you're learning in the main curriculum. You also have the opportunity of taking an online internship if you decide that you don't want to do a studio elective in the spring semester. The online internship is offered by an institution called Artbound, and so they spend a few weeks with the chosen students in the fall semester onboarding them and helping them sort of write their CV and prepare sort of the different materials to be applying for internships. And then students are placed in an internship in the spring semester in lieu of taking a studio elective. Now, the internship is not mandatory. It's based on whether or not you feel like it is relevant for you, basically. So that's a little bit of what happens in the second year at the Paris College of Art.
Yeah, so in addressing the third year, you'll see here at the top of this curriculum chart is that summer in the castle. But when you return to Paris for your third year of academics there, it takes a very interesting shift because a lot of the study and research at that point starts to center around your own creative vision. So we devote a large part of that entire senior year or third year at Paris, including the following summer at Boston, towards your own project. And this, of course, was one of the questions we'll probably get to, but the program itself, the GBFA in film art, includes both film and art when it comes to your capstone, meaning that not everybody has to be working in a narrative modality or a documentary. You can even go beyond experimental film and go into mixed media, projection, gallery-based art. All of that is acceptable for your capstone work. And you'll have almost an entire year, a little over a year, to actually complete this project, along with the help of all the faculty and the support of all the staff and equipment that we have to make sure that that capstone ends up, being a great representative of all of the work that you've put towards it. Harold, do you have anything to say about some of these classes here in Paris as we build up towards that capstone summer?
Yeah, so I can just say maybe a little bit more about each of the individual classes. So you will notice in the Paris fall term, you have three BFA project classes. So you have conceptualization, research seminar, and management. So the conceptualization classes you are broken down into two distinct sections. So if you are sort of wanting to work on a narrative film, you'll be sort of assigned to a specific class. But if you're wanting to work in a more experimental genre, so whether that's sort of installation, experimental film, or hybrid cinema, then you'll be put in a separate section of the class. The research seminar is there to support the work that you're doing in the conceptualization class. So you're researching and sort of trying to understand the different types of films that have been made that are similar to what you're doing. And the project management is a very much a sort of understanding the business of film. So, preparing contracts, risk assessment, and everything that has to do with, producing a film successfully in a safe environment. So basically, the whole fall term is we could sort of say the pre-production and conceptualization and the coming together of your ideas, and then working up towards the spring semester, which is when you'll be shooting your film. So you have, if you look at the curriculum chart there, you have BFA project production. Now that's a 6 credit class. So the way this class is run is actually not in a conventional way where you meet once a week in a classroom with your peers. You're actually meeting once a week with a chosen mentor that will be working one-on-one with you, and that will be helping you through the steps of, successfully producing your film. So that's sort of the bulk of the capstone sort of film or class or sort of, I guess, year that you're doing here whilst you're in Paris. And then that leads into your final summer in Boston that Dan can sort of get into.
Yeah, so just to finish the curriculum here, you'll notice that when you arrive in Boston for that last full summer, you're going to have 2 workshop classes going over the length of the entire summer, allowing you to do all of the finishing work on your piece. Again, whether that's a gallery build in one of our art galleries, or whether it's going to be going through our post-production, color correction, and sound mixing here. By the end of it, you'll have a work that we'll be able to publicly show. You'll notice too, like I said, that if you go to the website, all of these are laid out in more detail there, and we'll be happy to answer any questions. At the end of August there, when we all are approaching graduation, we have our large 3-day event. What we do during that 2 or 3-day event is we will do capstone screenings of everybody's work in a mid-sized theater that we have on campus. We can invite the public, we can invite your family, all of your friends. So it's a high-profile screening. We also have our art gallery. So anybody who's doing installation or mixed media can do a build. And again, we have a gallery opening, reception, and a week of being able to show your work there. So moving on then to, I guess, co-curriculars, other things that are happening besides this curriculum. What else is going to be going on in both locations? I'll let Harold open up with some of the stuff in Paris, including the Cine Club.
Yeah, so we have a bunch of co-curricular events that we sort of organize in order to help students understand the sort of wider landscape of making films. So we have cine clubs where we invite filmmakers to come and present their work. So all of this happens on campus in our cinema. Typically, a cine club will have either a selection of short films or a feature film from a chosen filmmaker, and then we'll have the filmmaker in attendance, and then a Q&A, and then an informal gathering with the filmmaker. And this is a way for students to sort of meet working professionals and to start networking and start to think about, what happens after they graduate. So we typically have 5 to 8 cine clubs per year, per academic year. So that's 3 or 4 per semester. Uh, some of them are mandatory and a part of your core classes, and others are, not. But we encourage students to come to all of them because this is a great way of sort of, starting to understand, the European film festival, European film market, basically. And then we also have the industry talks, which are, I hand it over to Dan to speak a bit about those.
Yeah, I mean, we maintain a large network of connections via both schools. So we're able a couple times a year to have basically a very high profile professional come in and give either talks to the students or the industry talks, which are actually webcast to a much broader audience in the public. These usually have to do with, something that you'll be facing. It could be about working in independent film. It could be about film markets in different areas. It could be about specific functions within the film markets. But it's always interesting. We're always able to find some very compelling speakers, and it's really kind of a good insider knowledge opportunity to be able to attend these kinds of talks. We did mention the internships. I just mentioned that in passing again. It's Artbound, and there are details about that also on the webpage, which you can refer to. And then the film festivals, I'll toss back to Harold. Those film festivals happening over on the continent.
Yeah, and so as part of the co-curricular events, we take second year students to the Clermont-Ferrand Film Festival, which is the biggest short film festival in the world. And so we offer train tickets, a festival accreditation, and 2 hotel nights to all students in the second year program. And this is a great opportunity for them to sort of start to understand the landscape of the film festivals and meet sort of other students that are attending the festival and meet professionals as well. So it's, a great opportunity in the second year. And then in the third year, we take students, so the capstone students, to the Rotterdam Film Festival, which is a big international film festival for both short and feature films. And again, this is similar to what we do for the Clermont-Ferrand. So we pay for 2 nights at a hotel, the train, and the festival accreditations. These film festivals are sort of widely popular amongst our students, and I think are really sort of a game changer in terms of students understanding what it means to be, a filmmaker, basically.
Well, I wanted to toss this back to Molly here for a minute, just to kind of go over some details of the application process.
Of course, yeah. So when you're thinking of applying to Emerson, there's 2 ways you can go. One of those is the common application, which is great if you're sending your application to multiple spaces, you want to share your personal essay. The common application is a great option for that. The Emerson application would come directly through Emerson. It is free to apply to, so that is also a nice piece of it. And we would essentially be looking for not that personal essay component, but more your writing supplements. So that's really the difference between the two. Everything else is going to remain the same in terms of what information you might be submitting through there. So when you're applying to Emerson, we are going to require writing supplements, where we'll ask you a little bit about why you're choosing this program. And that is a requirement in terms of this program. You will chat a little bit about why this program interests you. We're also going to ask you, essentially, you could title your life. That's a writing supplement question. So we're really trying to get to know you better through those writing supplements. We're also a test optional school. We're very truly test optional. So it's up to you whether or not you would like to submit any SAT scores, ACT scores. We're also looking for any activities you've been involved in, letters of recommendation. We really look at applications holistically. So we're looking at every component of your application when we're going through a review process. For this program, we're also going to be looking for a creative sample. So that can happen in a few different ways here. So one of those options is going to be a film or video submission up to 5 minutes. We are also going to give you a portfolio option if you wanted to submit 5 to 10 pieces. So that could be any digital art, drawing, it could be painting, sculpture, photography. That can all fit into what your portfolio might look like. So again, we're really doing a holistic review of your application when we're going through that process.
Thank you very much, Molly. So I think now it's on to you. I mean, Harold and I will be available here, and Molly will share some of your questions, and let's hope we can address that. So,
Of course, yes. So, just as a reminder to everybody, if you do have any questions that you would like us to ask and go through today, you can submit those to our Q&A box. But to start off with, we do have a question within the Q&A box that is asking, how would you suggest that we direct the creative supplement aspect of our application to this program or any part of our application? So essentially, I believe they're asking sort of with the creative supplement aspect, how would you advise that they bring that into their application, and maybe what are you looking for in that, which I can also jump in on that too, but if there's anything that you wanted to mention as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's good, Molly, because that has to do with admissions. Obviously, the only thing that we'll emphasize from our end is, we're looking for creativity in different media forms. So again, you're not limited to just, a narrative, a documentary, or an experimental film. We're happy to review other things at admissions. But Molly?
Yes, of course. So I also like to say that everybody's coming from different levels of experience as well when you're looking at a creative portfolio, a creative submission. So keep that in mind as well. If there's anything that you have focused in that you feel strongly about that you wanted to submit in a portfolio, say you just have drawing or just have painting, or maybe you filmed something on your iPhone. Everybody's coming from different levels of experience. So that's important to keep in mind as well. Or if you have had the resources to make a short film of any kind, that can be great too. So keep that in mind as you're thinking about that creative supplement. And I would also say a piece of advice within your application, anytime that you can share maybe why you're passionate about the program, or we can learn more about you through your application, is a great opportunity. So I always advise students, as you're looking over your application or your portfolio or creative submission for the last time, just think, is there anything that I would like them to know about me that they might not already know from my application? So that would be my piece of advice to you within those. So our next question is, how big is the usual first year class for this program? If either of you want to jump in on that.
Yeah, it's ranged in the past from 25 up to 35, 36. We try and keep it roughly in multiples of 12, because that's usually 12 to 13 is usually the size of a class with a single instructor. And so, we try and remain in that range. We have so far, I believe, Harold, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually between 24 to 36, I would say.
Yep.
There's also a question in the chat essentially asking about, could a student switch into this program from being in the Boston side of the program? Would either of you like to speak to that? I can also jump in on
Yeah,
that.
I mean, that's actually a good question. And no, there are some restrictions with this program. First off, there's no transferring into the program. So whether you've already had credits at another institution and another program, or even within one of the institutions, you cannot transfer those credits into the program. You have to begin like everybody else in this program does at the beginning. It is a sequenced curriculum, which is part of the reason, meaning that all the courses have been carefully planned to lead one to the other to get us to that capstone year. So entering the program has to be done from step one.
Thank you. Another question within the chat, a student is curious about how long the program has been around for. So how long have we been collaborating together, and how many groups of students have come through the program?
Harold, I think we're on cohort 5 graduating coming up. And the program itself, it's making me feel old now. It's been around, I think, eight or 9 years now. I think it's been active for 8 years almost. And it was planned a couple of years ahead of that, because obviously we had to put infrastructure in place. And, this is, it's what's called a joint degree, which is a difficult type of degree to actually, get approval for. It does take a lot of effort on the part of the two institutions to line up our curriculum and to keep our faculty in communication with each other. But you have to think of the kind of opportunity it offers to a student to be able to take part in the college life of two separate institutions that are working so closely together.
Thank you. And this is a good follow-up question in our Q&A chat so far. So the question is, for clarity, who are you essentially getting your BFA from? Emerson, PCA, both? They're just curious essentially where they would kind of what they would get on their diploma essentially.
Harold?
Yeah, so it's a joint degree, so you get one degree with the stamps of the two institutions on the diploma. So it's not two distinct degrees, it's one degree, one diploma with the stamps of both institutions on it.
Thank you. I'm also seeing some application questions in the chat, so I'll just answer those quickly as well. So there is a question about how a student is reviewed for this program. So at Emerson, you are applying directly into your program. So the only time that we might offer you a different program is say that we're noticing from your application that maybe you did intend to apply for media arts production. Then that might be a time that we would suggest a change or for you to think about other majors that we offer. But when you are applying to Emerson, you are essentially reviewed for the program that you're applying into. So that's important to keep in mind here. We also have a question about when you're submitting any portfolio pieces. Can it be multiple clips? Can it be one video? I would say in terms of if you're thinking of a creative sample, if you want to do the 1 5-minute clip, that would work, or if you're doing a portfolio of some smaller samples, that can work as well. Do either of you have anything to add onto that piece either in terms of portfolio? Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, let's see. We've got some others in the chat as well. There is another question as well in terms of maybe more on the applying side, but I also have a follow-up question for both of you with this one. So the question is, does Emerson offer film outside of the Global BFA program in film art? And the answer to that would be yes. There's another film program as well on the Boston campus called Media Arts Production. It's essentially more production work from day one. So you get some flexibility to try maybe directing courses, photography courses, animation courses. If you want to do cinematography courses, there's kind of 12 different concentrations that you can go down within that program. But I think this is a really good opportunity, maybe if you both want to take a piece of this one, to answer kind of if a student is considering both programs, how would you kind of split up the differences between them from your perspective, and what would be your advice to those students?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit too, but I really want Harold to speak to the kind of the breadth that you get by going to an art college or adding an art college into this mix. Now, Emerson obviously has a strong background in production. It's been doing production and theater for quite a while. We have a fair amount of infrastructure in Boston, and we do have connections to the Los Angeles market. But the thing about coming to the film program here is, I think largely you'll be focusing really largely maybe on New York and the LA markets, and you will not have the context of the entire European market. That's one of the major differences between the two. And I think the second thing to speak to, which I'd like Harold to kind of talk a little bit to, is the idea of the auteur theory. And this idea of when you come to college to enter the media industry, what is your end goal? Would you like to be, a very well-educated, technician, a specialist in something? Obviously, there's a lot of things that you can pursue, but I think part of the Global BFA program was always trying to add a lot of context to what your creativity is. And, the experience of traveling abroad, as well as, some of the stuff Harold could speak to, it talks about building out a broader vision as a filmmaker.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is actually in the title of the program. The program is film art, and so what we're sort of nurturing in this program is the artistic voices of each individual. So we're trying to help you figure out who you are as an artist, working with moving images rather than focusing very squarely on sort of sound design or cinematography. Obviously, I'm not saying that we don't address all of the technical requirements of being a successful filmmaker. So we do have classes that address of the techniques, but that is not the focus. The focus is on sort of you as a filmmaker developing a singular artistic voice, understanding what it is to be an artist in the 21st century, working across different cultures, across different continents. And so we are really sort of geared towards sort of artist filmmakers rather than more conventional sort of traditional sort of Hollywood filmmakers. So I think this is what is quite distinct about this program. It's sort of really sort of working with different types of moving images rather than just one type of narrative filmmaking. So I think this is what is quite unique, and this is also the main difference that I've observed between the regular Emerson program and what this program has to offer. And then, Dan mentioned a little bit about this, but, the big sort of sort of bonus or the one of the big advantages is sort of understanding two very different film cultures. So you get to work and understand what the sort of American film market is, but because you're also spending a lot of time in Europe, you're also understanding what this market is. So you're getting sort of like a broader, more sort of global understanding of what film is in general.
Thank you. And then we also have a question in the chat about if a student was in, say, the media arts production portion on the Boston campus, then would there be opportunities for them to take any courses at Paris College of Arts, say, in the summer or for a semester-based abroad program?
So yes, there are. We do have between 5 to 10 visiting Emerson students every semester. I think this is done through Corey's office. I can send you a little bit more information, but yeah, we sort of welcome usually 5 to 10 students that come to the Paris College of Art, and they're either under my supervision, as in they're sort of like affiliated to the film program, but sometimes students will choose to be affiliated to the fine art program or to the photography program because actually they want to spend a semester focusing on one of these other areas of the arts. But yes, it is possible to spend one semester at the Paris College of Art. And in terms of summer classes, we do have some summer classes, but they're a lot fewer, and they're not under my supervision. So I can't really speak about those summer courses.
Thank you. And then we do have a couple of application clarification questions again in the chat. So I'll just go over a couple of those as well. So when students are thinking of applying to this program, the question is there a separate application or essay? And the answer would be for Emerson, you're applying either Common Application or Emerson application. There is one application in that way. So it's not like you're, say, applying to another school instead. You're just applying in the Emerson application. The only additional piece that you're going to see is for that creative portion. So a creative sample or portfolio portion, as well as when we're asking you about why you're choosing your major. Those are the additional portions that you're going to see in your application, but it's not like you're applying to something completely different than the general Emerson application. You're just going to have those extra two required pieces on there. And then there's also a question about if, say, a student is not admitted into this program, are they considered for media arts production? Again, it would really come down to essentially if a student, for example, meant to apply to media arts production, we might be seeing that on their application. Otherwise, we do review your application based on the program that you've been admitted to. I don't know if either of you wanted to add on to that as well. You're welcome to. Okay, then great. All right, so then I did have another question that I wanted to ask you both, and this kind of goes along with what we were chatting about earlier in terms of the difference between the two programs. But with that, what kind of student tends to thrive within this program? I would love if both of you maybe took a portion of that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. It's actually an important question. This program, as Harold was saying before, is a somewhat intense program. It is accelerated, so you don't have a lot of downtime, meaning that you're usually either traveling or maybe have a week or two at the most to visit home or visit family. So it takes really kind of somebody who has that kind of stamina and that drive, to be fueled by their creativity and be able to handle this type of travel. I would think also, well, I'll let Harold speak. I mean, there's also a level of responsibility, individual responsibility that really is needed in a program like this when you're spending time abroad, because this is not a structured semester abroad. You are actually moving abroad essentially for 3 years. Harold?
Yeah, and I would say I think the students that tend to thrive in the program are the more mature students. So, having the ability of living in a city where you don't necessarily speak the language, having the ability of commuting from, the student housing into school, having the ability of negotiating a new culture potentially. So really, I think the students that thrives are the more mature ones. If you're looking for a more conventional sort of American university experience, this program is probably not for you because it is a program where you are moving, you're traveling a lot, you're having to adapt. So the ability to adapt really, it's a maturity, I would say, is the number one element that I've sort of have identified in students that are successful in the program.
Thank you. And there's another question in the chat as well. The question is, with the capstone projects, will students own the rights to their own work or will Emerson?
Yeah, it's a good question, and students absolutely own everything that they create. So we're happy to support it. We might have some resources towards film festivals, information about how you can take that work forward, but the students will own everything that they ever create, any assignment, capstone work, etc.
Thank you. There's also a question in the chat. This is a bit more of an admissions question about financial aid. So essentially, what is Emerson offering in terms of financial aid? What might you expect as you go through the process? So at Emerson, we do have a financial aid office. So they are always available for all of your questions. I'll make sure to give you their contact info in the chat. But as you're going through the process, if you are a student that would like to complete the FAFSA, that is essentially then reviewed by our financial aid team, and that is how your financial aid would be assessed. But then another portion of that is our merit scholarship. So Emerson offers multiple different opportunities for merit scholarship that is just reviewed with your application. You don't have to do anything additional or extra for those. For the Emerson programs, those can really range in terms of the merit scholarship that you would be awarded, but it is completely reviewed based on a holistic review of your application. So every component of that application is what we're assigning merit scholarship to. Is there anything that either of you would like to add on that side of things? No, not particularly. Okay, great. Perfect. Let's see. There are a few others as well. Just want to make sure I get everybody's. And then again, we have some questions too about maybe the class size that we see coming into this course. And if either of you have any information on maybe the typical interest that comes with this course before you bring it down to that class size, if that makes sense.
Right. I think, that's also an admissions question as to how many are admitted versus how many apply. It is a specialized program. It's continued to gain traction year over year. So much so that we've increased the average entry class now to 35, 36 admissions. We do get a lot of applications, and if it is something you're interested in, it's a great opportunity. I would say, go for it if you're interested in it.
Yes, that would be my advice as well. I think I always say to students that are more interested in maybe these more specialized programs, especially as you're thinking of, oh, which one do I choose? I think if you're really passionate about this and this is where your interest is, that's where you want to be, right? So I think it's worth it to apply into the program that you're most interested in, because it is a popular one. We do get a fair amount of applications for it, but I think you're going to be happy if you're following your passions and you get into the program and you get to enjoy it. I think is really the right direction to go in and the right way to think about it. We do also have a question about within this program, how accessible are professors and mentors for one-on-one guidance? Maybe what are the opportunities for students on either the Paris side or the Boston side of campuses?
Harold, do you want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, all of our faculty at the Paris College of Art are also working professionals. So this being said, they are contractually obliged to sort of answer emails and to potentially meet with students. Obviously, this is a little bit different during the capstone year, where actually they are sort of responsible for meeting one-on-one with the students. And then I guess it really depends on the faculty. Some faculty are very, very available and are happy to sort of meet with students on a very regular basis. Others are a little bit more precious about their time because they are working professionals. This being said, the reason why we have all of these co-curricular events is because we are trying to sort of bring the faculty and bring the students together. And so for them to sort of be able to sort of, eventually collaborate and to share knowledge, basically. So we try to facilitate as much of the coming together as possible between the faculty and the students.
I mentioned about advising too. There are 4 people that are keeping an eye on your progress through the curriculum. There would always be the 2 directors. So Harold and myself are watching everybody's progress, as well as both of our assistants who back us up on that. So you always have 4 people there that you can reach out to for advice on moving forward or anything with the curriculum or your academics. And then lastly, I wanted to mention that we do have an advisory board. So we actually have outside professionals who will help give you feedback on the capstone process itself. And these are usually pretty high level industry people that have an affiliation with our program. So yet another opportunity there to interact and get some feedback on your work too.
Thank you. And then another question for you both as well. So when a student is thinking of going through this program, sort of as they come to the end of it, is there any opportunity to maybe specialize in one area, or do students tend to do that? Or is it really just they're kind of getting a well-rounded perspective of everything that they might be thinking about?
Yeah, well, part of that capstone year is really individualized. So if you want to talk about specializing in something, I think as they approach that capstone year, communicating with Harold and myself about where they want to spend all that time and energy that last year, and then us looking for a way to best support that interest. So if somebody has a calling towards the visual aesthetic, if somebody wants to do something more with sound or motion, I mean, we can support any of these interests between, faculty advisors and all that support on that capstone project. Previous to that, the first 2.5 years is really spent building very, very strong foundation across all the skill sets. So like Harold was saying, the goal of the program is to offer, a very, substantial film education with that context of artistic vision. And then by the time you reach that third year, it's individualized, where you can essentially specialize or follow what you're passionate about, and will support that vision.
Thank you. We also have a question in the chat about, well, the question is there crossover of job opportunities for the Paris College of Art in the US program towards the end of the program? Maybe what are some of those job opportunities, and is there maybe any partnership between Paris College of Art and the Boston campus at Emerson?
Well, I'll speak quickly just to the alumni thing, but then Harold, I'd like you to talk about the visas, extended visa. First off, on the Emerson side, Emerson maintains a database of all alumni, and so we have a literal database of thousands of people that you can network off of, people that are working in multiple locations in multiple industries. We have a career services department. There's an entire, career support that goes into this program also, not only internships, but other forms of career support. And then Harold can address being able to return to Paris and after your degree is done by extending a visa.
Yeah, so you have the opportunity after you graduate of extending your visa by 1 year. So this will be entirely handled by the Student Life Office here at the Paris College of Art. And we have a growing number of alumni that are actually now living in Paris, some of which are working, some are doing internships. And so there is this opportunity to come back to Paris and then potentially, look for work or look for an internship. This being said, this is entirely dependent on your level of French because obviously, whilst you're in the program, everything is happening in English. Once you're out in Paris looking for work, you need to be able to speak French. So there is support there, and I am happy to help students, figure out work and figure out who to write to. But you will need to be able to speak French.
Thank you. There's also another application question in the chat, so I'm glad to jump on that one. But the question is, can you apply for both the Global BFA and Media Arts program? Again, at Emerson, you would apply directly into the program of your interest. So if you're applying to the Global BFA in Film Art, you would apply directly into that program. Or if Media Arts Production is the program you're interested in, you would apply directly into that one. So you would be selecting one program that you would be applying into. We have another great question in the chat as well for you both, which is, are there any great examples that you have of things that students might do after they graduate from this program, or cool things that students have done with their degrees from this program?
Yeah, Harold can address a couple, but we've had students go on to film festivals. We've had multiple students doing that, get awarded at film festivals, and I know that we've worked on film boards. We've had students doing different things.
Yeah, so I'm just going to speak to a few students that I've sort of been in touch with recently, but I know that a couple of them have now started the production companies in Los Angeles and are successfully sort of producing short films and feature films. We had an alumni a year ago who worked for PBS for 1 year. We have an alumni from 2 years ago who's working for the Seattle International Film Festival as a programmer. Then we have plenty of other alumni that are working either in sort of more production capacity or in film distribution. But obviously, the alumni is now growing, and the students are sort of, going out into the world and are doing different types of jobs. Obviously, it usually takes a little bit of time for students to sort of, you know, successfully sort of enter, a uh, their film career. This being said, I learned yesterday that one of our recent graduates, Narain, had her short film that was created during the capstone year be selected at the Singapore International Film Festival, which is a top rated film festival in the world. So there are students that are going straight from graduation with their capstone films into top festivals. So yeah, the program is growing and getting to be more and more successful in that way.
Thank you. We just had another question come into the chat as well. Let me just read it very quickly. This is a great question as well. So the question is, we've mentioned earlier that there is a summer portion in Boston from May to August. Is this each year or just the first 2 years of the program?
Yeah, so the summer sections will happen between your first and second year. That's an entire academic year in Paris. Then you'll come back to Boston for a full summer, back to Paris for that full second year. And then the last semester, or the last semester of the program, your senior year, basically you're finishing your capstone. That's all done in Boston that summer. So you'll be in Boston during the program for 2 entire summers, one early in the program and one that ends the program.
Thank you. I have another question as well that we'll answer, and then I have a last question for both of you. So this question, again, is more application-based, and this is regarding if a student submits their application to media arts production, but then realizes they want to switch to the Global BFA in Film Art program, after submitting their application, how would that work? I would say you've submitted your application already and you're realizing that maybe you meant to select the Global BFA film program or film art program. You are welcome to email your admissions counselor, and we can look into that for you and get you switched to the right program as long as it's early within the process, right? So as long as you reach out to us once you realize, and we can fix that issue for you. You would just essentially let your admissions counselor know, and we can help you switch to the program that you intended to apply for. So the answer to that would be always reach out to your admissions counselor. That is my best piece of advice, just with any questions at all. That it's always good to ask your admissions counselor and get their feedback. So my last question for both of you for today is, what is one piece of advice that you would give a student leaving this session today as they're thinking about this program?
I think my advice is, do you have it in you? I mean, my advice is really to look inside. This is a program that's going to definitely challenge you, but it's going to open you to so many things that you don't even know yet. It's such an adventure. And if you're up for adventure, then I would say you have complete confidence in yourself. This is where you want to go. It's such an exciting thing to do, but you have to want to do it because it takes the energy and the dedication to stick with it.
Yeah, and I will echo Dan saying that do you feel like you have the maturity needed to live abroad and to live potentially far away from your family, potentially to live far away from your parents for the first time? So are you able to do that and also to live in Paris? Paris is a beautiful, beautiful city, but it can also be sometimes difficult. It can be gray and rainy, and it's not, so it's a big international city. So are you able to sort of negotiate being in a foreign country? In a place where you don't necessarily speak the language, but ultimately that is hugely rewarding and beneficial to you. So I think this is what you need to be thinking about as you're sort of considering this program. And then also maybe worthwhile mentioning that there is, you've been listening to the three of us speak about the program, but there's plenty of students that you can reach out to on Instagram and YouTube. And I know that there's plenty of official and unofficial Instagrams floating about. And so if you're looking to get a bit more sort of direct information from current students or recent graduates, I sort of encourage you to reach out to them and ask those questions that maybe you felt like couldn't ask here during this session. And that, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer all of your questions.
Thank you so much. Those are wonderful pieces of advice. And thank you so much to everybody that has joined us today. If you have any questions at all, you can always reach out to our admissions office at admissions@emerson.edu. And again, thank you so much for being here with us today. We are so happy that you got to join us. So thank you and have a great rest of your day.